Alright, so now let's look at our problem questions from our last mock. We're already done with this theory on critical discourse analysis. Let's see what are our problem areas where we could not understand. Let's look at the question. I've always told you when we are solving such kind of questions, you ought to look at the paragraph first and then your options, and then you're supposed to match up your options with the paragraph so that solving such questions becomes easier and smoother for you, right? Okay, it says critical discourse analysis is a way of thinking about text, talk, and visual imagery that is sensitive to the relationship between discourse and our beliefs about ourselves, other people, relationships, and things that surround us. It is committed to exposing social and political unfairness. In this context, then critical means being interested in uncovering the role of discourse in the creation, description, and solution of social problems, the acquisition and use of power, and the justifications provided for the change or the maintenance of the status quo. The writer says which of the following propositions are assumed by the author. Okay, so the question says which of the following propositions are assumed by the author? It is important to change the status quo. Option 2, our language may reflect our beliefs about the world around us. Option 3, critical discourse is a very useful tool in solving the problems of the world. Or 4, our words and imagery are sensitive to other people and things around us. Now we go back and try understanding maybe what the question centrally is about. We see that the question centrally is about what? Critical discourse. Critical discourse analysis. And I have, in the most explicit way, explained to you what discourse is. And what is that? You know what discourse is, and then you can easily understand what critical discourse is. We've also done a theory based in it, right? So, how do you understand certain structures of knowledge? Through writing, through speech, through artwork, and then how they're presented to you in a certain way that they become forms of knowledge, right? This is what discourse is, and the moment they become forms of knowledge, they become what? They become structures of power. I'm not going to do it in detail now, we've already discussed that in the class. But how certain structures of knowledge become structures of power. So structures of knowledge is equals to structures of power. For example, men do not cry. It's what? A form of knowledge, or a constructed form of knowledge. Constructed in such a way that men who cry are feeble, men who cry are weak. So constructed form of knowledge, and in that way becomes what? Form of knowledge. Structures of knowledge is equals to structures of power. Or let's take another example. Meditating or doing healthy things at this age when you are young are not considered to be quote unquote very fashionable, but maybe partying out with your friends and making up in the cafes, that's considered to be more fashionable. So what is shown to us on social media, on Instagram, makes what or forms what? Structures of knowledge, structures of power, because we assume them to be like this, right? We assume them to be like this. So how certain structures of knowledge eventually become structures of power, and that is what you call discourse. Yeah, and discourse is very powerful. It is not easy to break a discourse, and only through these discourses can you create structures of power. It's very important to first of all create what? Discourse. Today, if you want to know everything or anything, you want to know anything, what would you do? You would go Open your laptop and Google, right? So you know that I'm going to get my answers on Google. Structure of knowledge, and hence becomes Google becomes what? Structure of power, because everybody wants to go there and open that first. That is discourse. So critical discourse, now you correlate this with the paragraph. Critical discourse analysis is a way of thinking about text, talk, and visual imagery that is sensitive to the relationship between discourse and our beliefs about ourselves and our beliefs. For example, like I said, men do not cry. Structure of knowledge. So our beliefs, beliefs about ourselves, as the paragraph says, are the people, relationships, and things that surround us. How we assume certain things to be. Yeah. It is committed to exposing social and political unfairness also. And of course, through these theories, only we're doing that all the time. In this context, then critical means being interested in uncovering, presenting the truth, presenting the hidden reality, uncovering. The role of discourse in the creation, description, and solution of social problems. So when you use this discourse in the right way, when you understand structures of knowledge, when you understand structures of power, only then can you create what? Or only then can you bring out what? Solution of social problems. The acquisition and use of power, how power is used. How power is used to create, to form, to construct knowledge, so that we believe certain things to be in certain way. And the justifications provided for change or the maintenance of the status quo. What is the question? Which of the following propositions are now assumed by the author? It is important to change the status quo? No. This is absolutely wrong. This does not relate with what is asked in the question. The question is, which of the following propositions are assumed by the author? The central idea that you need to bring in here. And then option 2, it says, our language may reflect our beliefs about the world around us. How do you create a discourse? Through communication. Like we discussed. Look at the first line. It's a way of thinking about text, talk, and visual imagery. I mean, when you write in that way also, you're communicating with your readers. When I'm speaking, I'm communicating with you. And how am I communicating? What is that sole thing that I'm using? I'm using language. So language is first of all used as a powerful tool. Only through language can you go beyond, or can you do this. So our language may reflect our beliefs about the world. So through language you communicate, and then through communication you create discourses. Through discourses you create structures of knowledge, and through structures of knowledge you create structures of power. So our language may reflect our beliefs about the world around us. So through language, through discourse, do you really construct your world? Do you really assume your world? So option 2 is the correct answer, but let's look at the other options too. Critical discourse is a very useful tool in solving the problems of the world. Right, that's correct. But the question is, which of the following propositions are assumed by the author? You need to bring in the central idea here. Our words and imagery are sensitive to other people and things around us. This is also correct. But the proposition assumed by the author, option number 2, how? Language, how through discourse, how through language do we really construct the world around us and assume ourselves and assume people around us in a certain way. And that makes what? Our belief systems. Our belief systems. Right? So that was your first part of this question. Now let's move on. Now we look at the next question, which is based on the same passage. Which of the following is the most appropriate summary of the passage? We look at the options. Critical discourse analysis is interested in analyzing the imagery we use in order to expose vulnerability to power. Option 2, critical discourse analysis tries to expose the role of discourse in the creation and establishment of the social order. Critical discourse analysis tries to uncover the unfairness of the world and tries to change it through raising awareness about it. Our critical discourse analysis is critical because it criticizes the discourse regarding social problems, power relationships, and changing or maintaining the society. So, what this option 1 says, critical discourse analysis is interested in analyzing the imagery. Now, where does that come from? No. Analyzing the imagery, that phrase itself is wrong. So, we rule out that one. Then we have critical discourse analysis tries to expose the role of discourse, how language is used. This is what I was discussing. In the creation and establishment of social order, how we assume ourselves or how we assume the society or people or communities around us. Option 3, it says critical discourse analysis tries to uncover the unfairness of the world and tries to change it through raising awareness about it. Look at the last 3 lines in the paragraph. Critical means being interested in uncovering the role of discourse in the creation. This is correct. But then it also says tries to change it through raising awareness about it. It highlights the issues, but then change it to what extent? Option 4, critical discourse analysis is critical because it criticizes the discourse regarding social problems, power relationships, and changing or maintaining the society is critical. That's wrong. So your option 2 says critical discourse analysis tries to expose the role of discourse in the creation and establishment of the social order, something that we were discussing in a previous question also, how through language, through communication, you construct discourses, and through discourses, you construct forms of knowledge. And this construction of knowledge is what Michael Foucault calls episteme. We have already discussed this in our previous classes. Episteme, Episteme, episteme. Okay, so expose the role of discourse in the creation. So how through discourses or how through construction of knowledge and through structures of power, what is created? Creation and establishment of the social order. How we perceive the world around us, or societies, or communities, or people around us, and assume them to be acting and functioning in a certain way. So your option 2 is the correct answer here. We move on and look at our next question now.